go from there to CPC, which there was not a meeting on CPC, so we'll check that off until next month. Trails Committee?
Same thing.
Okay. And no other reports? You want to do walk-ins? You have walk-ins?
We don't have any walk-ins, although we do have the people from 27 Lad Road here under new business. So I don't know if you want to do that first,
Anything
or
we can, yeah.
we're
We
waiting
have
for our
people
first
here that we
public
can-
hearing.
Yeah,
Okay.
good. All right.
Okay. Did you want to come up and sit with the mic? Yeah.
Russell Jennings, 508 International, and leaseor of 27 Lad Road, DC.
Amber Howard?
The microphone is not for this room. It's for the TV watchers.
Okay.
I'm just going to pull up the aerial photo so we can look at it better. So I take it you received the last letter. We asked you guys to come in. So just for background a little bit, we got a complaint earlier in the summer about some activities occurring without a permit within resource area or buffer zone to resource area. So we had sent a letter, went out, met with them. To me at that time, it appeared that it was kind of grading of an existing driveway. I'd never kind of seen it before. It looked like there was some erosion coming down. I asked that they remove a sediment pile and install some erosion controls there to keep things from getting into the resource area. Did some follow-up. They did put those straw bales in. I did go out and look at that at that time. So, and then we've recently received some more photos in that area, which may have been taken, further up or before, I had gone out there, that showed maybe a little bit additional work and clearing along the side of the road. So we asked you guys to come in because it is a pretty big property. There's a lot of portions that are in Sturbridge, and just kind of go over, the regulations that we have here and make sure you understand what type of work requires permitting through us. Is that kind of cover that for you?
Yeah.
Do you have the photos that you're
There was
talking about, or?
some photos here. It's a bunch of different ones. There's an area kind of further up with like a field. Maybe there was like some bulldozer or like trail work that might have been done up there. I can give these to you if you want to look at them.
That would be great if
Yeah, take a look at them.
Yeah, I can give them all to you.
be first nice to know if we're actually discussing our property.
Yeah.
And Sturbridge, if not Charlton.
Right, and that's where I think maybe it was a little unclear, so I thought pulling up the aerial photos, like where that field is, there's a brook up there, and that actually does look like it's in Sturbridge. So yeah, so these lines here, like the tax parcels, but this is the town line. So we got Sturbridge here, Charlton on this side. So this field, there's a brook that actually crosses
That's like, yeah.
through here too. I'm trying to pull this up for you. Yeah, so it looks like there's a brook here. So just concerned with any activities, if there was bulldozer up there doing anything in that area. So I mean, anything, I think this is probably the top of the hill up. This is going up the hill here, and this goes back down here where the brook is.
So this is GIS mapping right here.
Yeah, I'm just using GIS maps.
Okay,
Yep.
so if you take the little cursor and move it slightly to the left as
You
well.
have one there?
The screen.
You have one right there, you can just show.
Oh yeah, you can
I'm sure
point.
she's a much better aim.
Oh yeah, so if you wanted to point at something, yeah.
I'll be painting a picture, but if you could just move it slightly to the left where the road bends and doglegs right there. Okay, if you are to go into some of the tax maps and the deeds, some of the old records with Lad Road and Bond Sawmill Road, that is actually the point where the town line is. So GIS mapping the whole system is slightly skewed over in that Charlton Sturbridge proximity, right on that line going along 49. So it kind of shifts to the right as we're looking at it, but more towards where the cursor is really where the town line is. So that blue line that you're talking about, that is really in Charlton. I'm not necessarily here to debate that subject matter. We
Yep.
could say it's here or there, whatever. But I guess this is an initial discussion of where we're at with all of this. And I'll let you continue to just inform us of the information that you have, I guess. Then if I could discuss the subject matter afterwards, I'd love to do so.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, so, right, GIS mapping isn't 100% accurate, so where the line is may vary a little bit, and I don't know if it's that far off or not, so I don't know if you have plans that show where that line is, that would be useful. So Sturbridge has, as you know, as we've kind of already said, a 200-foot buffer zone, so even if a resource area, say the town line is here, the jurisdiction from that buffer zone might fall into Sturbridge, so the resource area might be in Charlton, but the buffer zone, the jurisdictional area could be in Sturbridge too. And I know too, there's been questions and concerns about the property boundaries there too. And I don't know if you have a plan that shows that as well. Do you have a plan that shows like where the town line is?
Yeah, I
Okay.
could get one for you, sure. I
Okay.
wasn't naturally aware of.
No, that's okay. I didn't realize that it could be off that much. So that would be useful to determine where that jurisdiction is too, so.
Sure.
Okay.
And we're always, Glenn, I always told Glenn, as Charlton knows, we have an open door policy with the conservation commissions. We ask that, or any board for that matter in town. The only thing naturally we do ask is, if you're going to be coming to our property, phone call, hey, guys, like to come out, meet you at the property today, check this out, that out, whatever. Always been an open door policy. There's no question about that. So that extends to yourself as well. Now that you're in that seat, I guess with that open door policy, if you're finished, then I could sort of jump in. I'm trying to find out how we got here, because we received one letter stating that we're all set. Now we're talking about widening of the road, which is the driveway. It was Lad Road. We have a long history going back and forth with two of your, if not three of your board members, one of whom has a no trespass order with the property. Now, I see pictures, and I don't know who took the pictures and who provided you with the pictures. I see pictures of our property in Charlton and also in Sturbridge that is posted that we specifically have a no trespass order against Mr. Barnacle on. We've brought with us the paperwork this evening for your information, so that you guys can be aware of the situation moving forward. We don't take kindly to having someone using their personal position in town. They're fighting a battle against us and then coming and sitting in the chair and trying to force regulations upon us that we feel we've been following, and there's no issue. So I'm very concerned of the direction where this is coming from, and the simple fact of I'm being stared down right now by the person who has a no trespass order on the property. If you can understand where I'm coming from. I mean, there's some serious ethics issues here.
I had nothing to do with the complaint.
Well, you're still sitting in the chair.
David, let's keep it through the chair and not get into yeah, no, we were contacted, had nothing to do with Mr. Barnacle. The fact that we know that there's a history would make us more concerned about what we did and where we went. And we did not trespass. We received some information, and and you're here because we contacted you, which we would hope that's what you just said you wanted us to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
Yep.
A, we did not trespass, we were not on your property, as we know it. And it wasn't through Mr. Barnacle. we're not trying to get into an antagonistic situation, period.
Okay.
So we're making you aware of our, our regulations and our concerns, and if you were, quote, working on your driveway near a wetland in Sturbridge, then you need to come before us.
Good. So, just for my own information, who provided the photos to you?
Quote,
They didn't ask to be anonymous, so
Yeah.
it was person who owns an abutting property.
Okay, just because
That took
person-
them believing they were on their property, I guess.
Sure, because by the photos, it's evident that they were trespassing. So, you're being provided
Well, I
with
think-
photos that the person was trespassing on our property, and now that's clearly Charlton, and we're in Sturbridge, so I'm sure you can understand my position.
No, I
It's just-
understand your
Yeah.
position,
It's
and I think,
wishy-washy.
and from my understanding with correspondence with that person, their family's property, there's a question of where the boundary is there. They may believe it's somewhat different than you, which is not related to our review for conservation or anything like that. I mean, I guess I would recommend that dispute be figured out where the property line is. That person believes that their property is a specific area, which may be like the middle of the road. I know that's your understanding that might be something different. And I think that's up to like a legal court to figure out outside of here. But those photos were provided to us from someone believing they were taken on their property, so.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. I'm not trying to jump down your throat, Rebecca. I understand that you're getting in the middle of something that you don't know a lot of history on both sides of, and that's part of why I've brought some information this evening so that the rest of the board can be aware of what's going on here as well as yourself. Just moving forward.
Okay?
So that's all.
Yep.
It should be mentioned that Rebecca really warned us not to trespass and showed us where we
No,
can walk. So we were very careful, and the photographs we were handed those.
Okay.
So we were not trespassing on your property. We
Anytime you want to come out, call me.
So we've given you our message and your, I don't know if there's anything else we need to talk about at this point.
Amber?
No?
I don't think there is.
All right, thank you very much for coming in.
Okay.
Yep.
Appreciate the phone
Nice
calls.
meeting you.
Thank
Yep, yep.
Becca, is there anything, you need these or did you need these copies?
Those are the only copies that I have.
The only copy you need?
Yeah, yes.
You want to leave Rebecca with a copy of that as well? And maybe we can get a copy of the photos.
Yeah. Would you be able to?
They're public documents, so you can ask, you can request them, yeah. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right.
There you go.
Anything else? Well, we're at 6:15.
Turns out, yeah, so they want it for the big detention basin on Rake Road, but so we haven't gotten their review yet or comments yet because they might just be taking the property.
There's no that land, by the way.
No idea. So
The woman that was sitting in the circle,
so we have planned to approve.
she owns the land.
Taking this is a permanent site.
He's leasing a property there, and his mother's 200.
All right, we're at 6:15. SZB, Notice of Intent, Sturbridge zoning bylaw, Section 4.04, Doughty Road, A&R, Lot 5R. Construction of a single-family home driveway, represented by Burton Engineering, for Mr. O'Connell.
Frank Bucari, Burton Engineering, is engineer of record for Mr. O'Connell. And I have legal ads and butter notifications, which were deficient last meeting.
Thank you.
Official. Subsequent to the last meeting, we made a couple of revisions. The first revision was relating to the resource area itself. As we had closed the ANRAD last meeting, it was agreed upon that this area would be a wetland based on the elevation of the invert of the outlet pipe. And so that's what's shown here. And then the 25, 50, 100, 200-foot setbacks have been updated. So I took off the 200-foot offset from the limit of work because now we're just showing the 200-foot jurisdictional area. So we're still jurisdictional because of the slopes over 8% within 500 feet. So the changes that were made to the driveways,
Do you want me to zoom in there?
Sure. So in this western driveway, I got rid of the swale on the top
See
half,
that?
the area that's in fill. And so I left just basically a level shoulder, calling for a minimum of 5 feet, so that way we don't have scour, so the water can just sheet across the driveway and basically just go out into the field. And then where we're cut in these areas, we have the swale. I added the check dams in, which are kind of hard to see, but put them every 50 feet. And then at the bottom of the plan, give you a check dam and a grass swale detail. And the grass swale detail calls for the erosion control blankets at the bottom of it for it to stabilize. The check dams are a foot tall, spaced every 50 feet. So the idea would be basically little settling pools on the way down, and then it enters the swale at the bottom. So those are the revisions.
Don't move it from there, please.
Yeah, and I believe the concern was, so one of the ideas, I left the berm kind of on the property line. Reason being, I didn't want this guy to spill over to this guy, and I didn't want to have to deal with cross easements. Now, if we wanted more to go into the field, we could theoretically pick it up somewhere and outlet, but then we would be adding a point discharge, and so we wouldn't be getting that sheet flow across the field. You'd develop a scour at some point, which would be undesirable, and then you'd also need to put an easement and basically run the easement all the way down to the wetland for where the water was going to go. So that's why this one, I kept the swale the whole way down, bringing it right to the right-of-way, and this one, I was able to let it go. And at some point, this will probably get reconfigured, but right now, that's what we're asking for permission to do.
Question? A question? Oh, that's still up?
Sure.
Becky, you have
Oh,
anything
Becky.
before we go?
Go ahead.
All right,
That's
go ahead. Excuse me.
Talk to us about the 10-foot drop and how that swale is going to work. Because it looks like it goes from 812 to 810 at the top of the driveway, and then down to 800 slightly below the driveway.
I'm sorry, where?
Right there.
Right in here?
So, no, come back.
Yep.
You can see where the 812 line is, right there.
Oh,
8:15.
815? I can't honestly see it that well from
Well,
here.
no, 812 is below it.
8:10 is below, isn't
I think
it?
these
That's
are,
8:10.
these are 5-footers.
So this is 812 right here.
Oh, did I?
That comes up.
Where?
Right here.
Right there.
Okay, so this 812.
And then
Oh,
down,
okay, yeah,
and
all right,
directly
okay.
below
I was-
it,
I was looking at the road.
directly below it, there's 800.
Give him a pointer.
So it looks like you're talking about a 12-foot drop.
Oh, right here?
Keep going.
Down here?
You see the 800, the next line down.
This?
Right there. 800 to 812.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. Let me look at a bigger plan. Maybe I'm missing something.
Or am I seeing things?
No, I think, I
Is
thought
there a
you were
type-
seeing, at first I thought you were seeing things.
Is there a
Now I think-
typo? Is one of them maybe the existing, one of them?
No, I
What was
just,
your question, Dave?
I would like to have an explanation about how the swale is going to work on a 12-foot drop or a 10-foot drop from the driveway.
So
I guess where
currently it's a 10-foot drop here, but then
10.
it's,
the swale goes down this way,
Yeah?
and there's a berm here. So any water that's in here is staying in here all the way down the
How
road.
high is that berm?
Then there's a berm, it's about a foot. And the swale's a foot deep, so you have basically a 2-foot grade change, that any water that comes into the swale isn't hopping the berm and coming down, it's just coming down the swale.
With check dams.
We checked it, so I guess I'm not understanding the problem.
Okay, then how much maintenance are those check dams going to require in order to continue functioning?
A check dam, you're just gonna pull the debris out the backside of them. They're gonna require some maintenance, yeah.
would you say like once a year clean out or twice a year maybe?
I mean, it's a single-family house, I would say as needed. It's a check dam, it's supposed to dam stuff up. If it gets clogged, it's gonna keep damming stuff up, and it's gonna get a point where you want the water to filter through, that you're gonna clean it up. But like any drainage system, you're gonna have to do some sort of cleaning, maintenance to it.
I think that's why I'm worried, Frank, because it's a long run,
Yeah,
and there's going to be a lot of maintenance on the part of the homeowner, and what happens if the homeowner does not maintain that?
and the neighbor gets upset and says, why is your water spilling onto my property? Go
What
go
neighbor
fix
would
it."
that be?
That would be this neighbor. So if anything happens with this swale, or this swale's compromised, the water, like you said, if it theoretically were to back up and
Yeah.
overtop that berm, it would basically be spilling onto the neighbor's property, but that's, we're talking a driveway, Dave. It's It's not a highway. I get your point, but I think it's a pretty standard system that is pretty tried and true as far as
Okay.
the swales and check dams.
I just needed an explanation because I get worried because of the recent storms.
I hear you completely. We had a basin that was installed improperly in Oxford, and the abutter was basically an area that had wetness, had flooding. You know, and an hour later, the flooding was gone, but they fixed the basin twice. The last time, they left a pipe at the bottom of it. So the basin that was supposed to stage up, it was outletting. So those big storms that we had a couple of weeks ago, we got a phone call, and we thought that we were all set with the basin. Finally pulled the pipe out. I went there today. It's staging up the way it's supposed to. So I hear you with the drainage, and this has been a very wet year, so we're all very keenly aware of it. Single-family house, how much are they going to maintain it? It's rolling the dice.
That's my concern.
It is rolling the dice to a certain extent.
Anybody else?
No, looks good.
Can always do what they do in Finland.
Rake?
Rake.
How many houses are going to go on that side of the road?
Undetermined at this point. So right now, we got the two, probably two more that are looking likely, and then beyond that, I honestly don't know. Because I think they're still looking at a possible bigger concept. I honestly don't know how many houses are going to end up over there. Based on the frontage, I forget what it ends up being, possibly 16.
Yeah, that's where one of my concerns is. I don't understand. Planning board and Concom have a difficulty in taking one house at a time and ending up with 15 or 16 of them.
Understood.
And the reason is partly because of us and partly because of DEP frowning on the practice.
I understand that.
And
The
yet it would
aggregation, I
seem to me
understand
that that's precisely what's taking place. It started out a year and a half or 2 years ago with 15 or 16 house lots, and now it's down to 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, or possibly 4, maybe 16.
Well, Dave, people don't always know what they're going to do with the property, and the economy dictates a certain amount. So they're going to build what they can sell. And if things are starting to turn, then some of it might just sit vacant for a while. Now, I would think from a conservation standpoint, when we came in with the subdivision and had 45 lots, that this would be preferable. So I would think we're moving in the right direction, and that would be encouraged. And single-family houses would be encouraged as opposed to big commercial developments.
We have to give
But
you
I-
points before Thanksgiving. Come on, Fred.
Again,
I'm going to fight for my points.
I know, I think we're a little bit off the subject
Yep,
here.
sorry.
We're using 500 foot.
I'm done.
It's an NR.
That's what I was questioning.
Yeah, the logic of an ANR has always amazed me, so I'm not gonna, we can't bring that up as,
Yeah, the knot bothers me.
yeah.
I guess
Anybody in the audience like to speak to this? Are you,
Oh, no, I was just gonna add, I mean, I think Frank's addressed what we brought up
Yeah.
at the last meeting, asking to incorporate these things.
that's true.
Yeah.
We are looking at this only under the Sturbridge zoning bylaw,
Right.
because it's within 500 feet and on an 8% slope. I think that with the incorporation of conditions during construction to make sure that it stays stable, adequate sedimentation controls during work to make sure we don't have any blowouts that end up in the resource area, and then the inclusion of these for the long term. I think that's a good inclusion for this project.
And Frank finished the paperwork,
Yep.
or provided the paperwork.
Yeah, now, so with the wetland, I
Yep.
know we talked about with the inlet for the pipe, but it seems kind of small based off of what we've been seeing, and it looks, I feel like it should be, and maybe it'd be useful if I go out on the site with someone, but I feel like this, you're not trying to nitpick here, but this whole front portion should be included.
Yeah, it looked smaller than I thought
Yeah.
it was going to be. And again, we did it based on
Just that.
the invert elevation. Bruce took his surface and said, okay, what's that elevation? And basically drew a contour at that elevation. So
Yeah, I think,
I understand.
Well, if we're staying outside of the 200 feet,
well, for this, I don't think it matters.
doesn't matter for this.
Right, for these two lots, I don't think it matters, but I think
Right.
for the ANRAD, it
Right,
might
well,
be useful for, like, actually maybe going out, I could
Yeah,
get Bruce out
I
there, we
agree.
could kind of flag it based off of,
Right.
based off that, and then,
Yes,
because I think it needs to be revised, it needs to be closer to the road, too.
It's not what was agreed upon, though.
well, I don't think we had a firm agreement at the last meeting. I was careful to caution everybody that it was going to be you know.
Okay,
we're
I thought, I'm sorry,
We're gonna
I'm not
go-
trying to be flip, but I thought we had agreed upon that it was the invert elevation and that whatever the boundary of that elevation would be the boundary of the wetland. That was my understanding and that's what we're depicting,
I think the confusion here was what we thought.
what that
the
elevation was.
elevation.
Exactly.
And Steve
It should,
proposed something like the third line out.
Yeah.
And so I think
Okay.
that's where the
Okay,
confusion's
yeah, I
coming.
honestly,
We were
right.
picturing
that's
it much
fine.
bigger,
It's
but we
not the-
didn't know the elevation.
We're restricted either way, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mind,
But it
if
just-
it's bigger, it's bigger. It's a restriction either way. We have the 25 and the 100 and the 50 foot, so no matter what, we're tied up. I'd like it to be less, but I understand your point that you basically feel it should be the whole bowl up to where the pipe is, regardless
Yeah.
of what that elevation is. It's a certain,
I think that's what we thought it would go to the pipe.
it's basically that area.
Exactly.
All right, well, I don't think we need to go out and, we can just change the plan. I don't think we need to go out and
All right.
beat a
You
dead
wanna-
horse on that. I thought I was doing what,
Right, and I think that's what
but
we
that's what
all
it showed,
thought that
right, and that's what
interpretation
it,
would be.
unfortunately, that's what it shows up to be. So I understand that your intention was something different, so we'll address it accordingly.
Okay, any other questions? I'd like to move,
Well, before we do that, let's see if there's anybody in the audience.
oh, nobody answered when you asked before.
No? Okay.
I'd like to move to close the public hearing.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
That's your Thanksgiving
All in
gift.
favor?
So this is
This is
for
for,
lot 5R.
no, 5 and 6, right?
No, we have to
no,
wait till
okay.
6:30 for
It's only
6R.
All right.
So this is
Move
5R. This is for
Yeah.
approval for 5R, issuance of orders and conditions under Sturbridge zoning bylaw.
Don't we use holiday rules?
No,
My rules.
I didn't want you to think about it, Becky.
All right. And what is your, do we have a proposal?
To approve the, what do we call them, revised? Was this an actual revision or just an adjustment?
I put a revision date
Okay.
on the NRAD plans, so.
I'd like to move that we approve
The revised date of today.
revised blueprint and the date that is listed on the blueprint be referenced along with the order of conditions that Becky
Yeah,
creates.
yeah, there.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
All right. Before we do that, would you please read this?
It's not new,
This is like a,
But
it's a continuation.
Continuation, we don't need to, or, hold on, you
You
don't have
don't
to do it,
need
it's a
to.
continuation.
okay,
Thank you.
we have discussion
All right,
after the second.
discussion?
Yeah, did your motion include the changes, the potential changes in the boundary?
The change of understanding, yes.
Sure.
That's what her order of conditions is gonna,
Well, that'll be for the ANRAD approval.
That's what I
That'll be
Yep.
separate,
Okay.
yeah. And you guys already approved that, so.
All right. Thank you.
so we
Anything
should be
else?
covered.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving,
We're
Frank.
now on to 6:30. And we are now on to A&R for lot 6R.
It's a new guy.
New guy. Please introduce yourself.
Frank Perry, Burton Engineering, and ditto what I just said a half hour ago.
God, time flies.
You are getting very repetitive, Frank.
All right.
You know,
So Frank, for this one, is the septic in the house within the 8% 500 feet, or is it just the
yeah,
driveway?
500 feet's actually right, actually it's up
Oh,
here.
yeah, there we go. Okay, so
There's a
from the
wetland
other
over here
one.
too, so yeah,
Okay.
it's all within the
Okay.
500 feet, so. The only thing that isn't really is the well. So,
Okay.
All right.
So you're allowing gravity feed?
yes. That one will be gravity, the one 5R is gonna be a pump. That one's gonna be gravity.
Any questions, comments? Anybody in the audience like to speak? Anybody like to close the public hearing?
Yes.
I move we close the public
All
hearing.
right,
And I'll second it.
discussion? All in favor? All right.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
No, well, that was just closing the public hearing.
That's right. Gotta vote.
You got nothing so far.
All right,
Yeah. Move to approve the plan as submitted.
I'll second it.
second, discussion?
All in favor?
I was just gonna add, oh, sorry, I was just gonna add one thing, and I don't think it matters too much here, is, that because it's already a field, is not like a defined limit of work for like the development of the house. So for the future ones, maybe we should have a defined limit of work, so that way it's clear what,
Yeah.
you know, is able to be converted for lawn, versus,
Good point.
you know, field or whatever it
It's a good
is, so.
point.
Yeah,
That's
I
a good
think
point.
I made a mistake here. The existing tree line kind of comes up the side here. And so I did show a tree line where we were doing some clearing in here.
Hmm.
So I apologize for that, that the existing tree line should be shown up there.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, what is next?
Because she had questions, we probably should revote.
Well, I made a comment.
She just made a
Yeah,
comment.
Oh, okay.
You've got to go back up.
Where are we
Here,
at?
so we can.
272 Big Al? What are you gonna do next?
No, this is, a request for certificate of compliance for 286 Big Allen Road, because we have those,
286.
unless, I'm not sure which project you're,
No, I'm just buying a house and I'm just into this. I've never done this before, so
Oh.
I'm kind of listening to what you guys are doing.
oh, okay.
It's fascinating. I moved from Texas. I've never seen
Okay, let's all act smart.
All right.
Oh, Frank, do you have the hard copies of those plans? Are they in here too, or is it, that's okay. Thank you. That's your file, yes, yes. You guys can come up if you want, so. So this is a request for a certificate of compliance. We had a partial that we did for this property within the past month or so. It was a small sliver that was taken off of the property to be sold. The orders of conditions were not, that portion of the property was not affected by the orders of conditions, so we did a partial to release that. And now we have a request for a complete certificate of compliance for this project. Let me pull up the plans because I think it'd be helpful.
You know, ma'am, instead of suffering neck strain, you can come over and sit here.
You sit at the table.
Makes it really easy.
I'll go there. Thanks.
Let's see. So just zoom in here. Yeah, I think that's good enough. All right, so here's our existing condition plan. So this is the plan which was reviewed and approved. There was an original orders of conditions and then an amended orders of conditions. That's actually kind of hard to see. So the original house was down here. So existing house, existing dock, yard area. Proposed plan included moving the house back. There was improvements made to the parking road area. Now I'll zoom in. Kind of a lot going on here. So with the construction of the house, there was a lot of stormwater management structures that were to go in. There was an existing catch basin here with a drain that was to be removed. There's a new drain that goes down to a riprap swale here, which I went out today, which is functioning. And then there's actually a drain that comes along this parking area here that feeds into another riprap swale down here, which seems to be functioning well as well. There's additional underground storage tanks. I guess I'll let Frank
So there's
go
some
forward with
cul-de-sacs
that.
in this area right here. I didn't see those go in because this was done in 2009. Joel provided me pictures of it to show, yep, it went in, so Becky got
I have
those.
some photos of that too to show
Copies
that
as
those were
well.
put in.
You in junior high then?
No comment. I was working. 2000 I started, so I got some years in. So as Becky mentioned, the drainage, the stormwater, comes down to this area here, and this is pretty heavily vegetated now, as well as having the riprap outlet. swale down here as well. And then there was to be some restoration area and some plantings. When I did my first site visit, it was just all lawn back here, and I didn't really see any plantings, so I mentioned that to Joel, and so he went and I forget who you, Babes? Is that you?
Babes Lawn Care.
Yep, and so you had them come and do some plantings. I forget what the plants, they were astilbes and
I don't know what.
a shrub, I forget what the shrub
And
is.
I wrapped them
Yeah, okay.
for the winter.
Yep, so, and so we asked him to get the warranty on those, so the nursery gave him a year warranty on them.
Which I have that.
Yep, and, yeah, so he went back and put some plantings in as part of the restoration. The trees that were left there, it seems healthy, mature, they seem in good shape. Actually, on the side here, there's actually a ton of ground cover. It's a mix of Vinca and Pachysandra and something else, and it's,
And I think that ground cover that's there was the original ground cover that was to
Yeah.
be planted.
right.
So
Yeah,
there's
and
still
it just
evidence of,
spread out, yeah. So there's pretty heavy ground cover up and through here.
Where's the letter?
yeah, that's the letter.
So, some pictures in, so there is also an under drain here, there's like a curtain drain all along the edge here, and, you know, this predates me, so I was going through the file, and just when they were doing this work here, the DPW asked just so that they could have a turnaround, because they do plow it, even though it's private, it is plowed. And so when they were doing that, that was pretty mushy up and through there, so that's when they came in with the curtain drain, and they tied that in down over here. And it seems to be functioning, you know, when I was out there, there wasn't a lot of ponding issues or anything like that, so it wasn't muddy, it seemed stabilized, so.
But Frank, most of this is untreated, right?
Yes. Yep, so the old catch basin didn't have a sump to it, so the new one has a sump. You know, this water, it's essentially getting filtered because of the way the drain is set up, that it's essentially clean water, because it's being filtered through the gravel and eventually collected in the pipe, going into a recharge system, then having this long spillway. So the treatment's actually happening in the spillways right here, Dave. So before you get into the actual wetland, you have the riprap to slow it down, and then you actually have pretty good vegetation, heavy vegetation in there for nutrient uptake and to slow everything down. So I think you are getting fairly good water quality by the time you get to the pond. There's no storm scepters, there's not, you know, the conventional proprietary treatment systems, but again, single-family house, so they're not obligated to do the full compliance, but they do have, you know, the Cultex for infiltrating the rooftop runoff, and again, they do have pretty.
They have two, don't they?
I believe there's.
I think there's two there.
I think there's some on this side, and I thought there was one maybe on the other side. I could be wrong on that, but.
I thought you were gonna disconnect
Pretty
that
sure there was
one.
two there. I honestly don't know, Dave. You were on site when this was happening, I
Yeah.
wasn't, so you probably know a little bit better than I do. And Joel can
I
maybe
can-
speak to some
Isn't that
of
what he talked about?
But
the infiltrators
Yeah.
that are there. Did you ever end up putting one up on the other side, or do you recall?
I'm not sure what the question is.
I think the photo shows something over here. I can pull up the photos.
Are those big yellow?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Cultex. Yeah.
There's two on either side of the house.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what I
And
thought.
four of them, they brought in four of them and put two on either side.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I can show the photos. I have photos of that too. They showed that they were installed. So when I went out, the only thing that I noticed, which I talked to Joel about today, was that the hatched area on the plan was the mitigation planting area, which I provided the details of what the planting. It was, I think, a total of like 15 shrubs. There was ground cover. There was some herbaceous plants required. There's ferns. So that area, I mean, I don't know, going back to the file, if it was just proposed for mitigation there, if it was a requirement. It did end up in the orders of conditions, so it was about 2,600 square feet for replanting, which is currently lawn. I would say most of it's moss, but he did do 15 shrubs and some herbaceous plants.
I guess he did
and some
plant the ferns
clumps.
back when this was originally done, and they just dried out and died. There wasn't enough water for the ferns.
Yeah, and there was a note
So.
from
yeah.
Aaron.
So we didn't try to replant the ferns. That's, you know, rather
Right, they
than force
probably
something that
did, yeah.
wasn't working. So.
And they were originally planted. There was a note in the file from Erin Jack when she was the agent at the time that she
You
did.
notice first he's too much water, now too little water. Depends on the.
The key to life is water. You don't have it, you're not living, so it's fine balance.
Just plant ready Christmas fern.
Yeah.
You won't have that problem.
There we go.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
So that was what I observed. I did take a lot of photos if you want me to show them to you.
I like the plan.
Well, this has been removed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and I didn't see that out there, so it was raining when I went
Yeah,
out.
Bruce looked for it. He went out with a metal detector. He didn't find
Yeah.
it, so he.
I think it just wasn't clear on the plan, that's the
Yeah, so I have
existing
another
one.
plan, and it's actually explicit on this one, which it should be on this one, but it's not. And this was one that was submitted, not to you folks, but it was submitted to the planning board, and it was a zoning plan, special permit plan, and on that, we had, where am I looking?
Right.
We had specifically
This
called
side.
out existing catch basin to be replaced with deep sump catch basin, existing drain line to be relocated onto property. So on the planning board plans, we specifically
shows
called it
that,
out.
yeah.
And this one should have said the same thing. They were generated at the same time. They have the same,
So that
same
was-
date. So that was always the intent, was to remove it. And for some reason on the plan that got sent to you folks, it was on a layer that got frozen or something.
So there's no easement necessary?
No easement necessary. And no drainage spilling onto the neighboring property.
Nobody's,
So you guys can keep
Nobody's
this
getting
extra if you
drainage.
want to keep this, just so,
Okay,
you know, and this was submitted to the planning board. So,
at that time.
yeah, it was part of
All right, and it has
special
the
permit.
same date as our plan.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
why it says it on that one and not the conservation one is a mistake.
But this plan is part of the special permit for planning?
Yes,
Okay, so it's,
so it's an official submitted
Yeah,
plan, yes.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, and I have the letter, so the letter to the amended, and I don't have the original, this I just opened up the Word document and printed it. And on this, it basically goes and says something about taking out the catch basin. So they go into a bit more about the catch basin, relocate, and yeah, the relocating the pipe on the property. So it was part of the narrative
Yep.
when the amended order was requested. So
We
even
do
though
have
it's
that
not, even though it's not
narrative, too.
specifically on the plan, it was part of the document submitted that was to be removed. So just wanted to give you a little background on that.
okay. You set?
Yep.
Paul, any questions?
No.
Looks good. David?
The key to me is inspection showed that it wasn't there. That's what we wanted.
Anybody in the audience?
Well, exactly.
Jenny, you want to speak on this? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes. Close the public hearing motion, please.
Second. Discussion, not a public hearing.
right, it's just a request for
It's a
certificate of
request.
compliance, so it's not a public hearing.
Okay.
I get led astray by the
To be
chair again.
safe.
It's a good policy to stick to, why not, you know? Just keep everybody in line,
wanna-
come on.
I just want to add to that, we do have in the file a document for stormwater maintenance that needs to be done, that can be included as an ongoing condition with our certificate of compliance, and that does in that require that the mitigation plantings are inspected and replaced too. So those are ongoing conditions that will continue on.
Is there a timeline on those conditions? 2-year growth cycle?
The mitigation plantings were the condition, but the actual document that was submitted from Burton Engineering keeps that, it's perpetual.
Okay.
There's perpetual condition for the plants in there too, so.
All right. All in favor?
Move we approve the plan as submitted.
I'll second it. We need that.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Jenny, I thought you were going to bring the baby. That's what Annie told me.
No, everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You gonna pop back up here?
That's it. That's all I got.
You can stay if you'd like to. I know you like to be
David?
here.
There's another project I gotta get ready for tomorrow, so.
I go
Have a
right
nice
here.
evening, everybody.
Have a nice
Thanks.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Take care. Nicely done.
Where to next? Where would you like to go?
I want to make sure I get that back, because sometimes I forget things back. I put 272 Big Alum on here under old business. I just wanted to give you guys an update. We did receive the notification for the Chapter 91 waterways. The last public hearing, last meeting
Yeah.
they came to, we said that we kind of put things on hold to figure out what happened with the dock. We weren't
Yeah.
sure with the state where that would go. So they did submit, and they're in their comment period at this time. Based off my discussions with the consultant, he didn't anticipate off his discussions that DEP, the Waterway section, had a concern that they had removed the shoreline and kind of pulled it back with the cement block there. So he
Gee,
thought
sounds
that
familiar.
he thought that plan would be okay. So we kind of talked about next steps. So next steps for them would be to come back with a request for an amendment once that's been finalized with them, and we can move forward with what we're looking for that. So that was kind of the last item. So just wanted to let you know,
No demand for the concrete to be removed.
based off of what the consultant told me. So
I think you should wait for the.
No, I was just curious about whether DEP had included that
Yeah.
in their program.
right. And then also it didn't require any Army Corps permitting because it wasn't filling. It was actually removing. So and it wasn't dredging, but this is, I haven't seen that, but we'll
Becky,
confirm
how
all
is that not dredging?
I don't know. So we'll wait to see what happens with that and we can move forward. But I just wanted to let you know.
I think it's
Not
certainly
forgotten
less than
about
the
it.
trigger.
Well, yeah, it probably is
For the
less than
core,
the
it's much
trigger,
less
right.
than the trigger.
What next?
Did you take my pen?
Before they give a damn.
So that's
Yeah, that's not even
272?
close to that.
Yep.
Well, 16 feet long.
I don't know, is this one yours?
Yeah. I like yours better though.
Me too.
We'll issue that, and if you want to pick it up.
Were you working on something for 272, you just said, began? Is that something that's coming up?
We
Not,
just
not
discussed it.
tonight. We were just,
Yeah.
I was
No,
just
we're
giving
not-
them an update. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll finalize that for you. We'll,
fine.
with the letter, if you want to pick it up, we can have it ready for you.
No worry.
Okay,
After the holiday would be fine.
perfect. I can do that.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, happy
Yep.
Thanksgiving. Take
Nice
care.
Thanks, same to you.
All right. So I have two small letter permits. One is a tree removal at 5860 South Shore Drive. This is a hazardous tree. It's been dropping limbs. It's located about 130 feet from the water. So this is coming down South Shore Drive. It's this one large pine tree here. It's pretty far from the water, like I said, probably about 130 feet. Portion of this, it goes up into two large limbs there, I guess you'd say. Another one fell off on the neighbor's car. They did give us photos of that. Their insurance company has asked them to remove the tree. He had someone look at it. I mean, it's not dead, but it actually, one of the things that had come up when another arborist had looked at the trees is when it has what they call the crotch there.
Yep.
A lot of debris builds up in there, and that starts to rot the
It'll
tree.
erode the inside of the tree.
Yeah, and that's probably why that one other large limb fell off. So they thought it was unsafe, and insurance asked them to take it down. It's pretty far from the water, and there is a good amount of trees.
So
Down
here's a
there.
suggestion. We agree to take down the tree, provided that it gets the normal replacement of 2 to 1.
Okay.
With trees, not with bushes. We have to keep putting trees back on the lake instead of taking them away.
Because it's not.
Would you 3-inch?
That's a, is that a lakefront property?
It is.
It
The
is.
tree's about 130 feet
Yes.
away.
The lake's
So-
on the other side. The answer is no. The lakefront property's on the other side of the street. But it's within 130 feet of the lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the tree is on that side of the road. It's on that lakefront property.
I was thinking,
Oh, it
that
is.
was-
Yeah.
oh, I was thinking there was a lot of trees on the.
Oh, I'm wrong then. So it's across the street, huh?
Yeah. no,
I thought it was
Yeah.
in the field, huh?
No, that's where it gets, that's where it gets tricky about the replacement.
Yeah.
That's why I raised the issue. I don't, there's a lot of trees. I was just down there, and there's a lot of trees on the lakefront.
Yeah, but there's almost no trees on the other side of the road because of the construction of the houses. So you have no protection coming inland for those trees that are down by the water. And it just seems to me that it would be approving taking down a living tree with probably 80 to 90 years worth of growth in it and not replacing it, so leaving another bare spot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue with you, I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. We are concerned about trees along the shoreline that provide habitat and shade. Now, we're 130 feet away on the other side of the road.
We're not on the other, I was wrong.
Yeah, no, it is on the.
I was wrong.
the lake
It's
side
on,
of the
it's
road.
on the same side as the road.
I don't have a problem with
No,
it.
we're looking to protect the lake
Yeah.
though. And if less trees protects the lake, I have a problem understanding that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
more
I just
trees.
I just was thinking it was pretty far
So
away.
2 to 1 is no big deal. Couple of, because we're talking about a
No, I just
3-inch
wanna-
We
diameter.
should talk about some kind of DVH though.
That's what I'm saying, 3-inch.
That's big. Yeah, that's big.
Well, what do you,
3. Jesus, I don't know. 3 is about an 8 to 10-year-old tree.
right.
You know, you don't wanna be, yeah, what the hell?
Go ahead, David, give us a number.
2.5 to 3.
2.5 to 3?
Yeah.
2 trees, 2.5 to 3,
Yeah.
replacement. Trees,
Trees.
Trees, right, not shrubs.
not shrubs and not,
Right.
Right. Now that I
Actually,
know
large
where the
bushes.
plate, now that I know where we're talking about on the lake, thank you.
Might we not do better to say deciduous? Since we seem to be having a lot of problems keeping any kind of pine tree on the lakes. And the
Or in the-
hemlocks
or in the
have been
woods.
devastated. The white pine is coming down.
yeah.
I don't care. 2.5 to 3-inch DHB.
All in favor?
Sounds good.
This is 20 Birch Street. This is a letter permit, so we're right on the water. This is a carport that this property owner would like to turn into a garage. So we already have a roof. It's already pervious underneath it. He wants to take out the tar underneath the carport, pour concrete for the floor, and put walls up pretty much. So there's some disturbance underneath the carport to get the asphalt out and put the concrete in. It will be immediately removed off-site. It's gonna be hauled off-site, no stockpiling.
Hang on, there's a permit for that as a carport?
I mean, I don't know the history of the site, but there's a carport
Is
there.
it a really old house?
I think it's an older house. It's 20 Birch Street.
Yeah, almost everything there is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he did sign, building inspector
Do you have
did
any
sign.
paperwork whatsoever? Or you just,
Oh, yeah, no, I was just showing you the photo. So, he filled out a letter permit application. And I have a copy of his building permit application, too.
how far are those walls from the water?
The front of this is probably about, I think the back is about 50 feet almost
Yeah.
or so, 50 to 75. The front's about 75.
I'm assuming the water's on the other side of the building, am I?
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
it's back here.
Yeah.
So this is the front portion. Do you want me to show you an aerial?
Yeah,
What I'm worried about, guys, is that we got in trouble once before. Carport turned into something that looked like a Holiday Inn hotel.
I think the footprint's gonna stay the same,
Yeah, the footprint's not changing.
but I hear you.
we were tricked into nothing to a carport. This is a carport to something. Right?
You
We
are
just keep
correct.
getting tricked. I know I have been.
What?
I have been tricked.
Oh, no, this was a big one.
It wasn't really, you know.
Well, so there's 20 right there. Now,
So,
so that's about 50, 60 feet there. The front is about 100 feet away.
yeah,
But it
so
really is-
probably 50 to
it's-
65 feet
Right, so it's putting up walls, garage
and
doors,
concrete.
and then taking the tar out and putting concrete. So it, you know, I mean, it is within 100 feet, but I don't think it would be something that would trigger a,
Is it gonna be a foundation? 'Cause
No, it's just I think gonna be like a pad. So it says remove, pour concrete floor with a
gonna
12 foot
have to be-
deep by
it's gonna have to
16 foot
be,
wide
Yeah.
Sidewalls, yeah.
launch. We'll use the
You know,
existing
Becky,
I'm sure
four
there's
concrete
already a
piers.
foundation for that roof.
Just footings,
Yeah, I said he's gonna use the existing
yeah.
4 concrete piers,
Okay.
which is for that, so it's just like a floor, it says pour concrete floor.
hmm,
The building inspector's good with it, we're good with it.
we should put something in the notice that we prefer not to have any additional support structures constructed. Because that implies that it can't be much greater in terms of spacing than that is. What happened before is the thing grew like topsy. And unfortunately, because we had approved it, there was nothing we could say about it, so they covered part of the landscape going almost up to the water.
So
I'd like to get some definition on the footing, and I'd like to get some information on, during construction, what they're, removal of materials and how they're gonna handle the materials.
Right.
Well, that's what he,
How they're gonna protect the foundation as it exists, those 4 piers.
well, he says that on his letter permit application, the asphalt will be immediately removed to recycling plant in Charlton. So I asked about stockpiling, but I think the stockpiling is something that I would put as a condition anyways, just
Yeah.
so it's very clear. But he says though in this that, it's a floor and he's gonna use the concrete piers, the 4 concrete piers, which are already there, pinned with rebar. If you guys wanna add 5 piers, 4-inch in depth across the front opening and back corner. Frame will be 2x6 construction. This is all more for building inspector, I think, but
Right.
it's not.
Does he indicate the depth of the concrete? Because we could be getting into a situation where he's actually putting up a foundation.
I think it's just, it says 12 inches on there, I think.
Eddie, what happened to 18 inches for,
What happened to
New
48
England?
inches?
well, yeah,
Cross,
That's what the building.
cross line, what?
That's what the building inspector requires.
Could you ask him? For us,
48 inches.
what's gonna be, what kind of a footing is?
I
it's gonna
can
have?
I can ask him. He signed that though, so whatever he's doing, I would imagine is per code if he signed it.
Yeah, because it's a pad and not a foundation.
Yeah, but he's putting up a structure. And he's putting it up using 4 piers.
Well, there's
Which
4
are-
existing piers. He's,
If the distance is a 20-foot long,
I wonder what's holding that up now, just
Sure,
barely.
that's-
he has a
Oh,
pier
piers,
here.
4
I
by
think there's
4.
already piers. There's a pier here. There's 1, 2,
3, 4.
3, 4, and he said he's going to add 5.
Yeah. Well, we're doing building instructor work.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
terms of our issues,
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So when I was out there today,
After I hear Becky, I think. it's
sorry.
fine. No, I don't. I jumped in too soon. Sorry.
I was out there today. There's a tree on his neighbor's property that there's 2 limbs that are hanging over his house. That his insurance company has actually sent him a termination letter that they're asking to have the 2 limbs removed, or they're not going to renew his insurance. So it's this large oak here. He's already asked the neighbor, which if you approve the limbing of those 2 limbs, obviously I would put in there to make sure he has approval from the property owner. But it's these 2 limbs which are
so it's just
overhanging.
pruning.
It's just
Yeah.
pruning, 2 limbs.
No problem. Anybody have a problem with that? All in favor of approving the plan?
Becky, do you approve of this plan?
Yes.
A little gun shy here.
Is that right?
This is yours too.
What's that?
Yep.
We have a request for an extension for orders of conditions. This is a project that is mostly complete. I did go up there today. They built the house, they're in. There's still some stabilization around the driveway that needs to be done. They have their erosion controls up. Permit expires now.
What's the address?
It's 81 Paradise Lane, sorry. And I don't think it's necessary for a 3-year extension. I think a 1 year is probably enough for them. Once they get through the growing season, I think we could then issue a certificate of compliance for them. Unless you think that 3 years is more sufficient.
One. All in favor of a 1-year extension? Thank you.
Please sign. So we're now to certificate of compliances. This one is DP file number 300-1011, 18 Tantasco Shore Drive. This was a septic replacement that we reviewed this past year. Issued the orders of conditions for it. They did a pre-construction meeting with me. One of the questions and kind of concerns was about how many trees they were going to have to take out right at this little area. I mean, the site is heavily treed. Oh. So I don't know if you remember this site. Over here is where the septic went in.
Yep.
This is the driveway.
Yeah.
There were a lot of trees over here. The engineer had kind of indicated that any tree outside of like 5 feet from the system could probably stay. Well, that wasn't really the case. So once they started doing the work, there was a lot more trees that needed to come out over here.
What do you mean that wasn't the case? I mean, they didn't do it.
Well, they had to take more trees out than
Why?
what because they're the roots, etc., and where the pipes were going in. It was just he kind of showed it on the plan.
Sorry, I asked the question.
Well, me too.
No, you're not, you're getting answers
I
now.
know.
But he showed on the plan that
But he said he was gonna leave them.
he said that they could leave them, right?
Yeah.
But he said within 5 feet the trees could stay. Well, it's not really the case, especially we noticed when you start
Yeah.
going out there and working.
Okay.
It's not really the case. So a few more trees need to come out. But there's a lot of trees along the shore and along the sides of the property. I mean, there's not really anywhere if you wanted to now make them put more trees,
Yeah.
and they did put some along the boundary line to replace those. But I mean, it was a septic replacement, so that, yeah, here, and then the pipes come out that way. So that's kind of what the end result was over there. It's hard to see on the screen here. They did plant some shrubs on the border there, but I mean, they can't really plant anything here because it's the septic, so.
Yep. Okay.
We should remember that several years ago, we had very strong advice that anything that was closer than 15 feet to a mature tree's roots probably would kill the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can really argue.
Well, there
with
were
this one.
also
I agree.
bylaws as to how close the trees could be to a new septic system. And they seem to have gotten lax on those too. If you look at up on lead mine, the one we just
Yeah.
did, that mounded thing we did on lead mine.
But I think, when something comes in next time, have a better idea that, yeah, that's not really realistic that those can be salvaged.
Yeah. Is there another amendment to the back?
I thought there'd be one more, and we could all back to it one time, but two there.
You got 97 McGilpin?
Yep. So another request for certificate of compliance, DP file number 300-555. So this is an older one. Property's for sale, came up in the title search that the orders and conditions were never closed out. So this was constructed, well, I think the first permitting was 2003. I think it started in 2003. So this is I don't have the plans scanned up there, but most of what appears that you looked at this time, it's a pretty big property, is the driveway going in, which was near the resource areas, and there was a house and septic in the back. The only thing, when they submitted the plan for the house, this time as like the as-built for the septic, originally the house and the septic were shown differently. I think the septic was like back here in the house. But based off of looking at the plans that we originally had, most of that work may have been outside jurisdiction. We have a 100-foot buffer zone here. So I don't know that it was a concern or not at the time. I don't know if it came back. I didn't see anything. Like I said, the resource areas are down further down the driveway. The driveway, I went up there today, drove up it. You know, it looks like it was constructed as shown. I think there was an enforcement order at one time, and then it was fixed. They needed to put erosion controls in, etc. Just kind of through the paper trail, looks like that was taken care of at the time. I took some photos.
The as-built is a good representation, Becky, of what you saw today?
Yes, yeah, so this as-built for the house in the septic, the driveway, per the original plan, looked correct. Yeah.
We must make a note on the original plans that we have in the office that it's been superseded. Because we don't want to pull those plans out 5 years from now and say, oh, wait a minute, this thing is backwards.
Right, well, what I was thinking I could do is I could also reference this plan on the certificate of compliance. So that way there's a record that this plan
Okay.
was okay. So we have the original plans that if anyone looked at the orders and conditions can see it referenced on there, and then we can also include this. So I can just write something and add it on there. That's what I was gonna recommend,
Okay.
because I don't think it's a concern with the change, but it is a significant enough change, I think, that it should be noted somewhere, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Wouldn't wanna drive off that driveway.
No kidding.
It's back there, it's like really steep right here.
Oh, no, this is serious.
Yeah. Other than that.
I think it's okay if we include that, that's my recommendation, include that
Yep.
reference to the plan, which I'll just modify this first sheet.
The time between starting and actually finishing the home, and it was different owners.
Right, it was a realty company, I think, that started it, and someone else.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
That's my home, I'm building, I'm buying.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I didn't understand like what the difference was, so the realtors had to come here and understand like what was going on. So thanks.
oh, you're welcome. Yeah, so when
What
they,
does that mean, like all that mean?
so when they built the property, because they were working near a wetland, they had to go through review for it, so they had to get a permit. When you get a permit, it gets recorded at the registry of deeds, and you gotta follow certain conditions, etc. And then, when you're done your permit, you're supposed to submit a request for a certificate of compliance to say, yes, we finished our project and we did it per our permit, can you confirm that for us? And that's what this is, but it just, sometimes these older projects, people don't do them, so it doesn't get done, that's why it got
Okay.
caught at the title search. So by signing this, it says, yes, it's all set, you're done with, conservation.
Okay. And no, I don't want to fall off the side of the driveway.
It's bad.
It is. Okay, so then does that mean that everything's good with it and we can go through with the closing or?
Yeah, yep,
Everything's good from a conservation point of view.
Right.
Right, okay, well, yeah.
correct,
Yeah,
yep.
I just want to make sure.
No, you don't have any part of the closing part.
Yeah, I know.
I
But
mean,
that
just
was, I
go-
asked the question about that plan and whether it showed exactly what Becky had seen on the site today. Because you want them to be matched, because anytime you come into us for any modifications, like changing the slope on the driveway, we have to be able to pull out the plan as it was before.
You just use that as an example. So say you wanted to come in and build a pool or something, but you came back and say there was a garage that wasn't on the plan. Like, well, when did this wasn't approved? You know, that's what he means. Yeah, but
Okay.
but just because you are close to resource areas, so if you want to do something that's beyond like normal kind of maintenance of your yard and using that area, if you wanted to put in a pool or another garage or something like that, you just would need to check to see if it's within our jurisdiction to a resource area and go through review under Wetlands Protection Act. So-
And you have
Actually, we've been in
additional land you
violation,
could put it
Ed.
on, so we probably wouldn't let you go near the wetland.
Oh, yeah, that's,
You
it's
know what
in
I'm
front
saying? It's plenty
anyway,
of land.
right, that
Yeah.
big, that
Yeah.
pond thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've been in violation because we have not had her speaking into the microphone,
Oh.
and the people at home haven't been hearing you. And all,
And I thought I
Maybe.
projected.
you may
Has to
have.
be the mic.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I guess, can I ask, do you need me to stand up and ask?
Yeah.
Another question.
Could you
on-
come
Well,
up
you gotta
and
go
use
to
the
the mic
microphone
now.
though, please?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
We'll make it legal for the end.
Thank you. So another
Please
question, 'cause-
introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Tara Richards, so, thanks. My other question is, so I'm kind of fascinated with the whole process. Like, is it anytime you prune a tree, you have to get permission, or is that just because that was near the water?
Because it's near the water.
Okay,
Near the wetland,
near the wetland,
Yeah.
so those were all on the lake.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so here too, like off on the side, I don't know if I have a good picture of it. So over here, like this whole area where it's all naturally vegetated, if you wanted to cut these trees, they're
Okay.
close to the wetland. They're not as close maybe as that tree was not, it was within jurisdiction, 200 feet. I mean, you'd have to get approval to do that work.
Okay.
If you wanted to, you have these ornamental shrubs and stuff. If you wanted to cut your ornamental shrubs in your yard or plant them, that's okay. You can do that type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Mow
That's
your
just curious.
lawn and things like that. So,
Okay, no, perfect. I don't plan on cutting anything down. Y'all be happy to know. I like it the way it is.
it's very nice.
Excellent.
All
Well,
right.
welcome to Sturbridge.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, a little cold.
we
Yeah.
are too.
I actually moved up here in January, not the smartest move. So,
Where did you move from?
Houston, Texas.
Oh,
Yeah, so. This
Well,
is
we're
all
not-
like fascinating to me.
We're not flat like Houston.
Where are you
No.
from originally? You don't have a Houston accent.
Good call. Actually, I was raised in Mississippi, and then I moved to Wyoming. I was born in Dallas, raised in Mississippi, moved to Wyoming for high school, and then I lived in Oklahoma, and then Florida, and then Texas. How's that?
Now you're up north.
I know. So I confuse people with my accent. It's
I've
schizophrenic
lived in
accent.
most of those places you just said.
Did you?
Or at least been to.
So what do I sound most like? Which one?
I would have said, kind of Midwest, West. I don't hear any really strong accent.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
Certainly
probably.
not Houston
Eddie, what are you
accent.
doing?
No,
And
but
as
there's
you
so many
say,
people from
cool.
New York and Houston, so.
All right, we got to move it along.
All right, sorry.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, take care. Nice to talk to you about.
Happy
next
Thanksgiving.
Wednesday.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Y'all have fun.
Thanks.
what else?
Getting near the end. So the last thing was the forest cutting plan. Steve
Okay.
went out on a site visit yesterday. Do you want to give him an update on that?
Yes, I did. I walked around for about an hour and a half with Kevin, and turned out that I worked with, now I don't want to digress anymore, I've already wrecked the schedule. It is an excellent plan. I strongly recommend that we accept this plan. I'll pass this on to the Board of Selectmen. Things that I liked about the plan is the Kevin Scherer is really looking for long-term maintenance and stability and quality of what he's doing out there and for the forest. It's selective cutting in spots, so it can be, so he's not gonna, any decision or plan that he has now is not gonna wreck the whole forest if he's made a mistake, but everything that he talked about was very logical. And certain trees he definitely wants to keep because they'll shed, seeds and have more of those. He's got a
Mast.
beautiful, right, mast, thank you. He's got a beautiful, that's what he said. Beautiful shagbark, hickory, some really nice white oaks, and these are trees that he wants to keep. Anyway, I did have, he had a question, and I sent a picture, and if we can
Pull
talk
that one
about
up?
it. If you can put that up just for a second. And I said it was something that, not anything that he needs to know right now, because he's not gonna do any cutting. But there is a stream, it's more like it's water that is coming off of the highway, and at certain times it kind of flows right across
Is it a
here.
Mass Pike swale?
Right. It
Exactly
flows.
right.
What's
Here's
the-
what it used to do before it was logged the last time. It flowed just like this. Now, when the last time they logged, when they put this road in, this thing
Yeah.
got built up, just as a matter of making the road. So now, the water comes down the hill, when it does come down, and flows down the road, and then eventually just goes off into here somewhere. So his question was, would it be possible for about 3 shovels full to knock this thing down a little bit and let that flow go back? And you could see where it used to flow, probably 10 years ago. So that was the only thing.
That's on the side of the road, right? Or is this in the site?
This is in the,
No.
inside the site.
Huh?
This is about, maybe 50 yards at the most
okay.
inside as we walk in on the part that's on the south side. There's no other issues on this whole thing. There's no wetland issues at all. It's just that water coming off of the turnpike. On the other side, they're really avoiding wetlands. The crossings that he showed me, he said, we're gonna go ahead and call them perennial streams. It's a question whether they are or not. They're probably intermittent, and they're probably not even, they're just like, well, or just like,
Right.
just like a very small amount of flow.
Right, the state forester said he even questioned if they're jurisdictional
Yeah,
maybe, but
right.
he was glad to see there be.
But they're gonna treat them, and they're gonna
Yep.
corduroy, and really protect, because there's like wide spots in where the flow comes across. And he had really nice plans for how to protect those. When in doubt, go ahead and do the max protection on them. And, I thought it was a good plan.
Good. So the first question, can you do filling on the road?
Not filling,
Removal.
removal, he wants to open it up.
All he wants to do is take this little hump, it's hard to see, but that's about 6 inches high right here. And you could just see where they did traffic in here years
So that-
ago.
Okay,
and
so
Swoosh that over.
Becky, have you seen it?
No, I didn't go. was
I would have
sitting
told him
next
to take a skidder and drive the skidder back and forth over that hump, and it would have gone away.
Yeah.
And then the water flow would go right back to
seen
where
it?
it used to be.
Seen it?
About 12 years ago, when I went out with George King on
Yeah.
a previous, this exact site, a previous cut.
Oh, George King did the cutting the last time,
Yes,
because there's a note that said George King will do the cutting. Not this time, he's not.
right.
Yeah.
I
I'd like to take a look at it if we're gonna do any
It really is minor.
excavation.
Re-
Minor excavation.
Minor, 3 shovelfuls? That's what the
It's
guy
real-
said.
It's really minor, and it will
Yeah.
restore what it used to be. You could see where the water used to go. You could see when they did a lot of traffic in here, that it just going in there, and when it's soft, and it just kind of like displaced this a little bit. They didn't build this berm, it just happened with the construction equipment.
I'd like to see it before I'm not getting a comfortable picture of it. I've heard so many people come in, I mean, look how gentle they told us they were gonna cut the Plimpton property.
Yeah, but the man has seen it.
Yeah. And,
That's fine, I had no problem. I
know.
that'd be
Yeah.
great to go look
And
at
do you
that.
just want to see this?
oh, yeah, I'm
Yours
not,
is the
I'm not
whole thing.
concerned.
You're not
I'm
concerned about the
versus
whole
I'm not
thing.
concerned about the whole thing, no.
No, that'd be fine. I mean, it's my opinion is that it would just be extremely small, and it would restore what used to be before they used that little road. The other thing is, you mentioned specifically, Dave, to look at the size of the
Staging area.
the staging areas, and they're really small.
Oh, okay.
So he thinks they're gonna use small equipment and bring trees in and drop them out. 2 of the staging areas are
Right.
right on the road, very small, smaller
Oh,
than,
they're on
smaller
the
than
road.
this road.
And I think he did say too, maybe when I spoke to him, that he'd have trap rock at the entrances too. I
Right.
think you had a concern because it was steep
All right.
there or whatnot, so.
We talked about that, and one of the areas where we can't see how they would get large equipment up the road, and then the more we looked at it, we said, well, this is where they're gonna have to do the staging, probably down. So I don't see a problem with staging.
Okay.
The size of they're very small, as proposed. The only real issue that he asked me was whether or not that could just be knocked down and let the flow go, and I said I would present that to the board, to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, let me explain for about 2 minutes my position regarding that little puddle right there. It's because of the frequent rains we've been having. I have seen that exact framework numerous times on the trails in Sturbridge and on other sites that have been harvested, wood harvested. And in the summertime, that becomes mosquito haven. But if you can have some sort of path of escape for that water that doesn't drive it backwards, but allows it to go where it has been flowing naturally for who knows how many eons, it alleviates the mosquito problem. We have one on the Sturbridge-Charlton line that was forested maybe 12 or 14 years ago. Some of these little things developed into 3 and 4 foot holes, which then become mosquito haven all summer. Because you have a rainstorm and there's so much clay in the soils we have in Sturbridge that it just sits there. It doesn't go anywhere unless it gets evaporated. So the more you can dissipate that water flow, or the water collection, I think the better off we are.
Well, and his, I think you're right, but his concern is that after they were done logging 12 years ago, they left a situation where the road now is muddy.
Yes.
And that's what he's concerned about.
That's
If you
bad.
could just let that road have this little tiny, you could see how little tiny bit of flow comes across there. But
Yep.
what does come down stays on the road for 50 yards, and he would just assume that it went back to nature.
I totally agree, but you guys go look at it.
I'd like to take a look at it. I don't feel like I'm on this board to dissipate wet areas. Okay, so.
Okay, but it's just restoring the little bit of a stream. They wouldn't even call it a stream, it's
Yeah.
a runoff from the highway.
Yep.
I
Now
hope
it's-
the
now
next,
it's in the
I'll
road.
go take a look at it. I don't listen to history either.
Yeah, that's fine.
I hope the next tsetse fly that comes into Sturbridge finds Mr. Goodwin.
Right there.
No, I'm already there.
In regards to the forest
What?
cutting plan,
No
despite
problem.
this
Right, we're all
part,
set on the
no
forest
problem,
cutting
I
plan.
can send a memo to Board of Selectmen.
Steve already indicated my concerns and they've been answered.
Yep, sounds good.
And you'll just take a ride out there and look at it?
Yep.
Do you have my file?
I do.
Oh, thank you.
You don't think I'd leave that at home, do you?
Yes.
Or in the backseat of my
Easy.
car, do you?
Thank
Or
you.
in your shirt pocket.
Thank you.
Is it gonna be obvious to me?
I can show you on
What?
there. It's on the bottom one, right?
Yeah, okay, when I go, I'll, you know, when I go, I'll call you.
Okay.
Can I keep it?
Does that mean I have to go?
Probably.
I'll go, I'll show you.
Yeah, all right, I'll just,
Well, why don't I keep that then so I can send my memo
Oh my
and you let me know
God.
when you want to go.
yep.
Well, you know, you probably want to go before I get back from out of town again.
Where are you going?
Oregon. When, help my brother build his kitchen cabinets.
Good. Good,
Hey, the
sounds good.
man's- He needs help.
Not writing a book, is he?
No,
No, I'm just checking.
All right.
this is not for a fun visit.
Not on our agenda because it recently came up, but 31 South Shore, there was a complaint. Steve,
Right,
you wanna talk
I
about it?
apologize that I waited around until the last second. Things don't change. It was the same way in college. I'm sorry.
I think,
The last minute, I fired that little memo off. I apologize. It was a week ago that I did the work.
I think this is great. I don't even think we need to discuss it, do we?
Nope.
I think it's fine.
I didn't have any problems.
I have no problem with it at all.
Okay.
I think we should congratulate
Thank
Steve
you.
for the good work.
My only question,
It's a Thanksgiving present for all of us.
my only question was, okay, He violated Wetlands Protection Act. I told him he was in violation. I told him how to fix it. Told him I wasn't gonna issue a cease and desist because the damage was done, and now I wanted him to stabilize it, not fix it. Didn't restore it or anything. And I said, we'll be in touch, that we might call you in. Dave and I went out when we went and looked at the restoration, not restoration, the stabilization. And Dave suggested that maybe something from the board, from the commission, would say, the next time you're gonna work in a resource, or in a buffer zone of a resource area, to please contact us. And maybe even mention that we revisited the site and that it meets our
Why
requirements.
would you want to do that?
I really don't know. I just thought that that's,
On God's green earth, do you think the man doesn't know? He's a contractor,
I know.
and he has an excavator.
Okay,
But if we tell him
I honestly
again,
didn't know what to do.
I feel it's our
I
responsibility.
thought you did a beautiful job. I think that's where you leave it.
Okay.
Well, but I don't think, you
Well,
didn't
it's up-
see him when you went out there, right? That he stabilized it and he's okay, or
I'm sorry, what?
when you guys went back out there to look at
Yeah,
it?
it was-
He was
Wasn't
not
around.
present.
Right.
Yeah,
He was at work.
yeah.
So we just looked at it and I said, this is really a great job. And
That's the
it
part
was.
that I discouraged him from saying in the
I know.
letter.
You're on the phone, you're on television.
I know.
Be careful.
So, I mean, it might make sense to send some correspondence that,
I
We
would
did
say-
follow up.
Yeah.
That was my point. We followed up. We'd like to be advised ahead of time, but we did follow up and the work meets our expectations. Something to that effect.
Or meets our whatever.
Requirements.
I honestly didn't know, but I just figured I'd better tell him that we're gonna be in touch because he did do a violation. But I didn't know, so that was sort of like my,
You know what we should do? We should,
Default.
the next time we are on a site visit, we should go look at the culvert on South Pond. See how that looks.
well, that's a good idea.
It was flowing.
He's been maintaining it, if that's
No.
the case. No?
We could see no real activity around the edge.
No?
We didn't look specifically at the culvert.
Yeah.
You know, his driveway is maybe 20 feet or 15 feet above the
Yeah.
culvert.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
I agree with that,
Yeah.
but you still disagree with, that we should send him a note? Even though
You
Steve
just say
said,
that we,
no, I didn't know what to
approval
do.
is
You
one
said we should
form
send
of
him a
note, which
letter.
you said you didn't want to do. You just, great job, thanks. Not that kind of note.
no,
And a challenging note just makes them want to play the game.
You would not believe, I guess it's okay to say this. I drove up the driveway. He comes out. What can I do for you? I said, are you Mr. Allard? He said, yes, I am.
So,
And I am really mad. That wasn't the word that he used.
Right.
And he went off on like
Just let it-
fireworks.
Yeah.
And I just said, wait a minute, I'm not here about anything. I'm not here about your neighbor. I'm not here about anything except that excavation that I can see from here that is it's a violation.
yeah.
Another 5 minutes of a tirade, I finally got him to calm down. And he walked me up. I said, you come with me because I do not want to be trespassing on your property. You accompany me to look at that. It's about from here to the wall there to go up to it. And finally I calmed him down and told him, even though I know this guy's a contractor and he did a stellar job on stabilizing it, I had to
Quick.
tell him how to do the job
Right.
because that was my job.
but quick too.
So I just say leave it.
He was on his way. He said, I would be there getting the bales if you hadn't stopped me. And I said, okay, I'm done, go. And he went to get the straw.
Okay, so we're all set then.
As far as I'm concerned.
What do you think, Paul?
I think we should adjourn, frankly, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I'm with that. So,
no correspondence then?
This is awfully early.
I know, isn't that nice?
One other point that we haven't discussed yet, the part about ignoring our enforcement orders at 3 Lad Road? We have to talk about it at some point. This is getting stupid. This is 2 years now.
So, right, I reached out to them twice, and then actually they had told him he had a contract, landscaper come in. Calvin came in to talk about the plan, and I then followed up with Calvin about a month ago, and left him a message asking about the status of it. I feel like it's very hard with a lot of things. You play this follow-up tag. So I haven't heard from them since that last time. I actually saw him after I left him that message the next day at a restaurant. He said, "Oh, I got your message. I'm going to give you a call," and I haven't heard anything. Maybe he's not on the job. I don't know. But right, we do have orders of conditions for that. They were supposed to do the restoration, and it's been sitting.
Why don't we call him in for the next meeting?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I've got one too.
What we need to remember about that is that when Montigny Landscape talked to Becky, one of the things that he mentioned to Becky was he felt that the wild things that were growing there were appropriate to what should be growing there, and he wanted to ignore a big part of the planting plan. And what I pointed out to Becky is that planting plan was part of the penalty for cutting down 39 trees on his property.
That's right.
Right. And what I said to him too, I said, well, maybe there may not be a need for some of the herbaceous stuff you're supposed to plant because herbaceous stuff is there. But maybe, you can look at the site and see if those type of modifications can be made. But even if you want to, you still need approval and you need to come back. So I recommended they follow the planting plan, but if they wanted to revise it based off of certain reasons, then they need to come back and ask that. But I
And
recommended
again, he
they follow
promised
it.
that he would do that,
Right, nothing has happened.
and nothing has happened.
Nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So we'll call him in.
Okay.
And what happens when we call him in? What are we gonna
Right.
do? Fine him?
That's my question.
I mean, that's my question too.
Where do we
is
go with
We've already
this?
told him, hey, you gotta do this, hey, you gotta do
You
this.
really can't answer that as a committee without getting before us and find out what he says.
But if we don't have a plan ahead of time, Ed, we're not gonna do a thing. That's what we've done for
Yeah.
2 years.
Can we talk about this, or do we need to put it on the agenda in order to talk
I think we can
about
talk
it?
It's old
about it.
business.
Plan for
Old
going
business.
at that, it's old business.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Let's bring him in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's,
But what's our plan, Ed?
the plan is to find out what the status is and when they're gonna do it.
We know what the status is, and he's already lied to us for 2 years about when he's gonna do it.
So what
He's
would you
never
like?
gonna do it.
He's never gonna do it?
Well, what I
So
think
then
you
we
can,
should bring, from that meeting on, then we should start finding him.
See the catch-22, Ed? Yes, we should do that. But we can't fine him for not planting plants in December.
That's a good point.
well, I think,
So
We could find
we're
him,
stymied.
Yeah.
see, if he still has it, he filed a notice of intent and has a file number, so he has orders of conditions. If they're still valid, technically, right, his permit resulted from an enforcement order, but technically his permit's valid for 3 years. He should not be waiting 3 years to plant them.
But it might be 3 years. We have to look it
Might
up to
be.
make sure that it
so
hasn't.
you're saying that,
And they did say last year to Glenn that they were gonna plant last fall, and
Yeah.
we have that.
Well, you said it
so-
to us all.
but,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you're saying that the enforcement order says he has 3 years to do it?
Well, it started as an enforcement order, and it resulted in a notice of intent with orders of conditions.
And they say you got 3 years to do it.
No, that's an order
Well,
of
that's-
conditions,
yeah,
it's
but
3
that-
years.
Yeah,
To complete the order of conditions.
Right, which would be, I've got 3 years to plant these plants.
Right.
maybe,
So you are,
which makes it a little,
But that wasn't what was agreed to within the plan. David's correct.
how is it agreed? What does it say that's an agreement? I'm playing lawyer because I've died by lawyers for years when I worked for DEP.
What I suspect that we should think about doing is decide upon a date like April 15th, bring him in, talk to the man, see what they have to say, but have pre-formulated a theory that if by April 15th, the planting plan is not being implemented, if we have not seen a landscaper or someone who is going to talk to us regarding the planting plan and specific dates upon which it will be worked on, we will begin the finding process.
Well, let's bring him into the next meeting and tell him that.
I'm
Well,
so
that's why I
con-
wanted to talk about it, so
Yeah.
that we have a plan.
I'm so concerned about that agreement.
I'll have to research the file
Yeah.
and see
Yeah,
what
is that
the,
agreement in writing that he has, that we agreed he was gonna do it before that? Because if he's got 3 years to do it,
Well, he was in violation,
right,
yes, yeah.
right?
I think we
My
need to see
understanding, I
what
wasn't here
exactly was
then,
agreed
but-
upon.
Take a look
first.
at it and see
I
where
will.
it stands. I can't tell you where it stands.
I mean, I don't even,
But David's correct, he came in here under violation and agreed to have it done within a period of time, and he has not met those dates. I have another one which I would like to suggest we do. I was just informed that I have wetlands that I'm protecting that are not in the town of Sturbridge. I'd like to know where that
line is,
line is.
okay.
And I want to, if we need to spend money to do it, I want to do it. Anybody disagree with that?
that's a good point.
I'm not going to have somebody come before me and tell me that it's not
Suddenly we're the
Sturbridge.
bad guys.
I would find it hard to believe that the line would be that far off.
The GIS, is that far off?
But I find it hard to believe too. So that's why I want to know exactly where it is.
And I didn't look at theirs.
I think we should probably buy a sign.
Yeah,
And put
right, town line.
Town line.
Town line.
But I think we need to find that out. We don't need to do it now, but we need
No,
to.
I know, I just didn't know.
Thing is that,
I don't want to bring the meeting up again.
No, I know, I'm just pulling it up for myself.
All I want to do is say that I would like to find out exactly where
The tax people indicated that it's 1,400 feet roughly
from
from Road, from
the
the
corner
edge
of
of Lad Road.
Yeah.
That's what that document that I brought up when
Yeah.
you guys went on site said. It
Yeah.
was about 1,400 feet, but it'd be better if we could get a specific number, just for
For
clarification.
clarification, right. Yep. Okay, I would,
Yep,
anything else?
Especially as Becky said, because there's a wetland involved in it, the upper
Right,
wetland.
yeah.
as a courtesy, we can call Charlton and say, you know, we observed, just as a courtesy, to tell you, we observed violations of the Wetlands Protection Act in your town. Just, we looked across the line and saw it, wherever that line is.
well, but
Yeah.
like I told him too, it's still,
Yeah.
there's 200 feet from that resource area. So even if the resource area is in Charlton,
Actually, if you're going to call Charlton Conservation, you should probably call Gary to have him do it. Because that's just about as much.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how I was warning my daughter-in-law. Never mind.
Do I have a motion to close?
No, there can't be one.
No?
Stephen is not here.
Oh.
Stephen always does the motion.
Can we
well,
call
I
him?
just, well, I wanted to remind everybody,
Paul's over here chomping at the bit to get.
Okay,
can I just wanna, sorry. Remind everybody this coming Wednesday, next Wednesday
Yeah.
is our public hearing in the town hall for the bylaw regulations.
Oh, that's right, Town
Okay.
Hall, yep.
Over there, 6 o'clock,
And,
you get to sit in the
Next
big
Wednesday, the
seats.
28th?
Correct.
I can't be there.
Okay,
I have another commitment.
yeah, me too, I won't be able to be there.
okay.
You going to be in
So-
Oregon?
I'm gonna be in Oregon, yet again.
Great.
All right,
My
so we
brother-in-law, you
need
know.
You and me, bud.
Yeah.
Ian Chester. So we
Yep.
need
And you
3.
too,
Yeah.
you're gonna be there?
Yep.
I'm missing class for this. I have no pressure.
Oh, wow. That's dedication.
Mm-hmm.
We don't put her in for a raise and.
Oh, here we go.
Shame on it.
Here we go.
Paul, you got something to say?
Oh, I would let, by this time, I'm out of here, but I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Really? I wouldn't second that.
All in favor? Thank you.